That's twisted.
This is Mark McNease in New York City with my co-host
Rick Rose in Shreveport, Louisiana.
And you're listening to The Twist. Let me get my bells. Let me get my bell.
Shit, I got mine, but I don't want to go get it.
You ready?
I'm tired. Yes.
3, 2.
Live from New York.
And
Shreveport. Oh my God, we should steal that from another show.
Oh yeah, nobody would know. It would sound so original. Ready?
Yeah,
3. No. 3, 2, 1. Welcome to The Twist, everybody. America's only clothing optional podcast. This is
Live
Mark
from New York.
Yeah, that works really well. This is Mark. Of course, I'm in New York City. Rick moves around. Where are you today, Rick?
I am in Louisiana. Yes, I was down south in Lafayette. Today, I'm up in Shreveport. We're having a big air show today, Mark. The big air show for the Barksdale Air Force Base. Weather permitting. And so far, it's stormed all night, but this morning it's all clear.
Was that on the Rouge Datebook calendar that I do for you guys monthly?
Had to drop that, didn't you? That you're a big-time writer now.
I'm a writer, baby. I'm a paid writer.
Yes, you can follow Mark at ShreveportTimes.com. Some of his stories are out right now. Or on Facebook, look up the magazine called Rouge, R-O-U-G-E. Like it, and you'll see some of Mark's stories on there as well.
Yes, and Frank and I, his birthday's coming up. I won't say what his age is. Tuesday.
Oh, yeah.
We went to dinner last night, and I'm taking him for a massage. We're both getting them this morning.
You're supposed to actually give your spouse a massage.
No, I know that. You know, I used to. I'll do it again, but I feel so fat. I feel like an elephant. That's why I don't like taking my clothes off, really, because I just don't like the way I look.
Well, you're giving it. What? Oh, my God, Mark. I had an experience last night. I woke up this morning. This is really weird. In my dream, it was finally a good dream after a night of really bad, tough dreams because it was storming. I woke up like ready to have sex, and my hands were getting in the position, and I was touching my partner, and everything was great. And then all of a sudden, I couldn't do it anymore. And I realized what had happened was, you know, as we get older, in my sleep, both of my arms froze the way I was sleeping left to right.
Wow.
Yeah, so then I got to wondering, I wonder if you're paralyzed, and this is a question for anybody that may know, if you can even dream of having sex, because like if you're paralyzed and you really don't feel sex, I wonder if in your dreams you would think, oh my God, in fantasy world, a paralyzed person has full-on sex, but I wonder if they really do, because I couldn't, and it was just temporary paralysis.
That's fascinating, Rick, and I think you probably can. You know. But okay, I'm drifting here.
Happy birthday to your husband. No, I got off track.
Thank you. Yeah, it's
big day today. I mean, shit, we want to talk about. It's a big wedding day. Yes, there you go. The New York Times had a wonderful, and you shared it with me, and a lot of my queer friends were sharing with each other this wedding today that's going on between the 90-year-old gentleman. You know who I'm talking about, right?
Oh yeah, because they had an article about him last week or the week before, and he had been married to a woman for many years, great marriage, loved her to death, literally. She died, and then he met somebody who was like 50 years younger or something like that. A guy.
Yeah, exactly. His name is Harris Wofford. It's the gentleman we're talking about, 90 years old, former senator. He was on the beach down there, fell in love with this guy. His name's Matthew Charlton. They're getting married today. 50 years age difference. Happy wedding day.
I support that. I think it's fabulous.
Yeah, and his kids supported it too. I mean, everybody's into it. So,
are we going to do a back and forth with shit we want to talk about? By the way, on now iTunes. By the way, now you have to mark your podcast either explicit or not. It used to be that you could check neither. You could leave it blank, but they did. You have to do that now. And of course, ours are always explicit because we have shit we want to talk about. One of mine is the just the horrific stuff that's going on in the world against queer people. You know, it is so much easier to just say queer. But I'm editor of an LGBT magazine in Bangladesh. I think it was their first one. Anyways, he and a friend were hacked to death. The Islamic State has claimed responsibility, but they're killing all kinds of people over there. Free thinkers. It's not just LGBT activists and that sort of thing. They're killing anybody who dares to have their own mind and express it. They've killed a bunch of bloggers, and they're not all atheist bloggers. They're just, you can't, in their mind, you can't question the Quran, period, at all. And if you do, they'll kill you. So they're doing that.
That's amazing. It's like when you shared that story, I read it as like, shit, Mark edits a magazine here. I mean, you edit online LGBT, senior SR magazine or website, and I got scared for you. And here, taking it local, the same hate, North Carolina governor has up that hotline reporting when not using the correct bathroom. I mean, what he did wasn't bad enough, and now he's got an 800 number where people can call and report people that are using the inappropriate bathroom. That's not a joke.
No, it's really sad. That was one of my, actually, maybe when I talk about Tennessee, we can hit on that stuff.
I want to talk about it because they also were saying since some of these HB2 laws have passed, calls have doubled at the Trans Lifeline, which is suicide hotline. Unprecedented 357 calls in only one day because it's wreaking havoc on people's lives, Fuck them, Mark.
It's vicious. It's vicious and hateful. And you're a little bit breaking up there, but I'm not going to worry about it. I think you'll be fine. Colorado, this was wonderful. I saw it yesterday in the Times. Colorado is putting a ballot initiative on their ballot to institute universal health care in the state. And, the idea is to get rid of Obamacare there and replace it with universal health care. And I think that's amazing. I would so love to see states start doing that because, as we talked about in the green room, who was in our green room today? I can't
just
remember.
Me and you. Everyone's on break today.
And the interns. No, but I don't think we're going to get national health care in my lifetime. But it could certainly start being done state by state, and I think that's very exciting.
That is exciting. Also in the news this week, to counter the shit I was talking about, the Webster Dictionary, has added the word cisgender and genderqueer.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I thought you'd enjoy that. We used to, on our show, we used to always talk about the words of the year or whatever. They're not necessarily words of the year, but they made the dictionary. I love that. It's awesome. And I don't know if you saw, this is something I really want to talk about. Lil' Kim, now they're saying she's doing the Michael Jackson thing. She came out with like this blonde hair and lightened skin. Have you seen that?
Oh, I thought you meant she was playing Michael Jackson.
Well, she could now. Maybe that's where she's headed with this. But it's kind of an interesting story. A big story. She's been steadily changing her appearance since 1999.
Wow.
In an interview, she talked about when she released her first album called Hardcore. She opened up about the impact past relationships with men have had on her and kind of talked about, her blackness and how challenging it is for black women to make it. So anyway, that was a big story. And also, I got to tell you this too. Did you see this about the headline was the Mona Lisa based on Leonardo's male lover?
I saw that. It's quite possible.
Mm-hmm. His apprentice name was Salai, I guess, Salai. And they really dug deep and posted pictures. I don't know.
No,
whatever.
But do you think if they ever X-ray, they'll find a dick, that she's got a dick?
I don't know. You just wanted to say it to really push it over the edge.
I got two more things I want to talk about. How many you got?
Oh, I don't know, but people need to look these stories up if they want to go deeper because they're kind of interesting.
They're interesting. My penultimate. That's a word I had to. It means next to the last, and a lot of people don't know that. My penultimate item is the Kentucky. Of course, the governor is shutting down the most successful healthcare exchange in the country. He's going to make them all go on to healthcare.gov, and supposedly it was to save money. Meanwhile, the state just gave $18 million in tax breaks to a Noah's Ark theme park. Priorities.
I tell you, it's crazy. Yeah, what are priorities? That's a bad one. Since you mentioned Dick, I can't help but not talk about some entertainment news.
You started it with the whole wet dream thing.
Oh, my God. How do you know I was involving my penis in that dream?
It's a dream.
I know.
Go ahead.
And John Barrowman, Doctor Who, gay, married. His husband's name is Scott Gill. I used to work with Scott years ago when Scott was...
you worked with everybody, Rick. Everybody.
I know. I'm just name dropping this morning. But did you see that? There's a video out about him, and he's on this video, and he's talking. It's on YouTube, and you can still see it. And Barrowman's husband gets in the hot tub with him. And you see it in the background. You see his... penis hanging, and he gets in, and Barrowman looks to the camera. He's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe people can see it. Everyone just saw you naked, Scott." It was kind of interesting.
That's shocking, really.
I know.
Now, see, that is why we have to make this an explicit podcast.
We do. And then another entertainment news makes me very happy. Chelsea Handler is coming out with Netflix's.
She's coming out.
Well, she's coming out. Yep, Wednesday through Friday. It's a talk show she's doing. So Netflix is doing its first talk show. They chose Chelsea. It's follow-up to her series called Chelsea Does. If you haven't seen any of those documentaries she did for Netflix, I want to talk about it because you talk about explicit. She's the one that knows how to push the joke more than anybody, doesn't she?
She does. I've never seen her, but she certainly does. I've read about her.
Love her. You've never seen her?
No, I'm kidding. There's one of the interns is in the background playing with the aquarium. He's gone. Can I get to my gators?
Yes, we're going to get to it, and because that's your first story you want to really talk
No,
about,
it's
right?
well, no, it's not the big topic. The big
Oh, this is
topic is
just
Tennessee, but this is my
okay.
last thing I want to talk about. See, now I'm
Let's talk
saying
about
thing because I don't want to. I don't want it to seem like I'm just trying to say shit a bunch of times. But
Yes.
it has to do with, and I feel very strongly about this. I have for a long time. You know, we hate, and with H with the eight number eight next to it, and the haters and hate this. This has been going on ever since Prop 8, and I think it's been overused. I think it's been trivialized, and now it's like everybody who disagrees with you or has a different perspective is a hater. And I personally hate that. I'm very, very selective in my use of those words. But I think that the gay people can be just as hateful as anybody else. If you ever go to Joe My God, I'm name checking this website that like everybody thinks is fabulous. But anyways, the comment section are just poisonous. I mean, they're poisonous. Like if he posts something about Christians doing something, like they're just vicious. I used to call them gay piranha. And then the other day I was thinking, what's a gay hater? A gator, right? So
Yeah, I love it.
rainbow trolls, gay haters. And this, I'm going to give you an example. And Prince died recently, of course. And whatever can be said about him, he was a musical genius. He was just an interesting spirit, and he put out all this music. But he was also seemed to have been always looking for a spiritual connection or a spiritual meaning, and he became a Jehovah's Witness, which is okay. I have a sister who's a witness. I have nothing against the witnesses, and I don't ridicule anybody. I will ridicule people in power who need to be ridiculed, but I will not ridicule people of faith or people of different, or Republicans. You know, I have a lot of I have close friends who are Republicans. But anyways, Prince dies. They do an article about him in the Advocate, and here are some comments from our precious special rainbow children. I'm going to read a couple of these. Here's one. Prince was an unapologetic, hypocritical homophobe. End of story. Here's another one. Yup, he was an outspoken hate monger and a homophobic bigot. But he's dead now, so everyone has forgotten that. It's more fun to flood Facebook with his music and videos to be trendy cool like everybody else. Got a couple more. And these are full of typos and bad like bad spelling and shit. So maybe these folks should spend a little more time learning how to proof their own comments. But anyways, this another one said Prince ended up being too freaky religious and a gay hater. Too bad he was a homophobic bigot. Why does the Advocate insist on trying to cover that? Pretty fishy. And then the last one says, why is the Advocate wasting time on this known hate-filled homophobe? His Jehovah God works in mysterious ways. Perhaps he was called away to a homophobic conference in the sky. LOL. So I wanted to talk about it because it's there. And, you know, queer people like to think that we're just nonviolent, fabulous people all the time. And there are some hateful, bigoted, prejudiced homosexuals in the world. And they comment, you know, and then they, like, to me, all of these comments are exactly what they're accusing this dead man of. They're hate-filled. They're extremely generalized. He wasn't a homophobic bigot. He was a Jehovah's Witness, and he did nothing to oppose our equality. He made some comment, apparently, in an interview a while back about his views on marriage, and he's entitled to those. Like I said, I have people that I love and respect who may not agree with marriage equality, like my late mother would not have. She might have by now, but no, I do not. They're not hateful. They're not bigots. And these little rainbow trolls, you know, I'm going to stop because I'm starting to not make sense. But you know what I'm getting at. The queers can be as hateful and bigoted and narrow-minded as anybody else.
I love it. I think you should kind of phrase the word gator, gators, and you should try to take it into the dictionary next year.
It's a hashtag. It's our new hashtag.
I know. I really think you're onto something. I think if you really want to go far with this, Mark, you could, because you've summed it up beautifully. And it's true. And I got to go to a big party tonight called the Pink Party here, which is the largest gay party in Northwest Louisiana. And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of hating going on.
Big topic. Your turn.
Oh, yeah. I want to talk about some big things. You know, today is national. So on the positive side in Louisiana, it's been a big week. Lots of Louisiana news. Saturday, April 30th is Lemonade Day, Louisiana. And you can go to a website. It's louisiana.lemonadeday.org.
For Beyonce? Is this about Beyonce?
No. Yeah, it could tie in. Well, actually, this is how it started. I find things, you know, how you get lost on the internet, talking about her song Lemonade, her album, and then going deeper about this little boy. I don't know if you saw it. He started a lemonade stand to raise money for his own adoption because the family that was fostering him couldn't afford his adoption. Beautiful
That's going to make
story.
me cry. Be careful.
It's a really
No,
sensitive
it's
story.
I like it. It's very powerful.
The boy's legal guardian, Donnie Davis, talked about this. This happened in Springfield, Missouri. Beautiful story, beautiful images of him online. And then from there, I found out that it was National Lemonade Day in like August, but Louisiana's ahead of its game. It's doing it today. I love it. You know, everybody wants to talk about Girl Scout cookies and how they can make a girl like learn about entrepreneurial stuff, but Lemonade Stand Day just posts throughout the state where kids are having lemonade stands. There's setups for it. There's workshops and trainings and all this stuff. It's cool. Have you ever heard of it? I think it's neat.
I think it's really cool. I haven't heard of it. And you just taught me a new word.
What is that?
Entrepreneurial.
You like it?
I like it.
Also in Louisiana, so continuing my first subject, we may be the first state to have our driver's license on an application, on an app, an actual app. You don't have to carry it around. It can be used at airports. It can be used when you're pulled over by a cop. I mean, we carry, you know, like on iPhones, they have a thing called the wallet. You know, like when I check in at the airport, I just show my wallet on my phone.
What if your battery's dead?
Well, then you're in trouble. Then you might want to have a, you know, hard copy of that driver's license. But app would cost $3 to $5. Would cost the same to renew the digital license on a regular basis. We also made news, speaking of gators, where there's a law going through the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries issuing alligator hunting licenses every year, as we know. It issues 800 licenses, but now they're saying alligator will be added to the list that you can take your gator into a restaurant and they will prepare it for you. You know, that's one of the foods. Like, yeah, ducks down here are huge. People shoot ducks, they take it in, and a restaurant can legally do it. Usually people don't know, but like in Wisconsin, you can't catch walleye, which is a fish, and take it in. So it's kind of interesting. Gators being added to that list. And in a 37-0 Senate vote Wednesday, the measure to bring cursive writing and require cursive writing in schools went through in Louisiana. So, yeah, so that's negative lost. It is good. But on the negative note, and here's my first. Here's the subject I want to talk about is, there you go, thanks.
Gotta bing it.
It's a powerful story. Louisiana is, quote, ground zero for the twin epidemics of HIV and incarceration. Louisiana leads all U.S. states in new HIV infections, second only to the District of Columbia, which is in the state. And its incarceration rate, Mark, is 150% of the national average. Get this number. Approximately 1 in 75 adults in Louisiana is in one of the state's 9 prisons or 105 jails across our 65 parishes. Wow. That's staggering. And the Times did a story recently about a woman in 2013. Her name is Marlene. She was put into jail in East Baton Rouge. She told the staff she was HIV positive. She was just put in for shoplifting charges. But during her 2.5 months there, she did not see a doctor or receive any HIV treatment. You have to turn over all your drugs, and they administer them. And even though she wanted her HIV drugs, they would not give them to her. Jail officials there never gave her information or assistance in finding medical care when she left either. And it's happening all over the state of Louisiana. You can dig deeper into these stories. Many people are in jail for minor things, and they come out, you know, sicker than they went in because they're not getting the HIV service that they require. Mm-hmm. So the U.S. Center for Disease Control better step in here. There's some discussion about it. And even though prisons will test for HIV, only a handful of parish jails actually conduct the regular training, even though the prisons do it. The local jails, where you can spend a lot of time, actually don't do anything. Late diagnosis and lack of medical care contribute to an AIDS death rate in Louisiana. Like I said, it's more than double the national average. It's a problem.
And and our whole incarceration situation is a problem. It's just horrible. I mean, there's so many things wrong with it on so many levels, and then they can't, you know, in so many places, felons can't vote, which I think is ridiculous.
And that's changing, though, as you know, and thanks to Obama. We're going to talk about that
in Virginia.
Yeah, in Virginia, too. It's anyway, something to think about. That's what I want to share.
Thank you. My big topic is Tennessee. Now, it's funny because Frank said, here's another state we can't go to. And I said, well, were we planning to go to Tennessee? But anyways, part of this whole, I don't know, is Dixie the new South Africa? Anyways, they're the South, man, they're just out to like
all out
to just gut the queers, man, especially, and they're using. I told you this months ago. They're going to use the transgender bathroom thing as a it's the tip of the spear, because they're not just.
You saw it coming. You did.
Yes.
You did.
Oh, absolutely. They're not. That's not their only target. We are all their target, and we're seeing these laws passed in the name of religious liberty. You know, by the way, religion is the oldest protected class in this country. It's protected in the Constitution. So if you want to talk about special rights, let's do it. But anyways, in Tennessee now, they just passed a law that, he signed it too, the governor, that allows counselors and therapists to refuse to see or counsel queer people. But it also includes Muslims, and anybody who offends their religious beliefs, they can refuse to see them. And technically or theoretically, they're supposed to refer them to somebody else, just like these people in marriage license offices, or they're supposed to be somebody else there to do it. I'll believe that when I see it. But and I've heard from a couple of people, including last night at dinner, that they're thinking as well, what gay person in their right mind is going to go to one of these therapists, and then it's like, they can't be forced to see anybody. I understand that. That is not the point. The Fenway Institute, which I have high regard for, just came out denouncing this law, because we're talking about vulnerable people. We're not talking about me or you, who, first of all, am I even going to go to therapy? But if I go to a therapist and he's like a Christian and he says, I don't want to see you, I'm like, well, fuck you, fine. But that's not the concern. The concern are minors, who don't. You know what I'm saying? They're minors. Their choices are limited. You have people in rural communities. I said last night, there are folks who can't just drive 2 blocks away to the next counselor, like in New York City. People. I think a lot of times people just keep forgetting that there's life outside the urban bubble. A lot of these are rural communities and small places, and their options are limited. And you might have seniors, you might have especially people in distress. That's a big one for me. They don't need to be rejected by some religious counselor. It's just a horrible law, and it's probably one of the worst cases of this that has come about. I think we can expect more, and we have to fight back. We have to say, that's why we talked about that last week. That's why I support artists saying, I'm not performing in North Carolina. I'm not coming to Tennessee. Beyonce, by the way, is doing Nashville or something like that. And I thought, thanks, Beyonce. But because it has to be stopped now. You can't, if you wait and you try some other diplomatic means, it's just going to get worse. And it's hideous. It's hideous, and it's cruel, and it's vicious. And like I said earlier, I use the word hater and hate very carefully, but this is hateful. This is some hateful shit. And they think that, they don't think they're hateful, but they're absolutely very viciously hateful.
Yeah, I think there's, it's like hearing you, it's like, it makes me sad. It really does. It can take me down, but it can rile me up. And so hearing what you're sharing makes me realize that I don't have to focus on all the nasty queer shit that's going to go on at the pink party tonight, which I referred to earlier, because sometimes I ignore going to those things. And I recently, this week, I was telling friends, I had a realization at 51 years old that although I am gay, Mark, and you've known me longer as a gay man probably than anybody in many ways, but I don't identify as a gay man. So it's really,
that's interesting.
Yeah, it is. And it's like everybody wants to talk about cisgender and transgender.
But do you identify as anything?
It's really interesting.
I know you're Christian, but do you? It's interesting.
I probably don't.
I identify as a gay man, but also this is interesting too. I've had a history of not being fond of the word queer, but the more I see what's happening to people, and especially, I will put at the top of that list trans people, because I have gotten to know so many. My first sponsor, I'm not in the AA anymore. I haven't been for a long time. But my first sponsor in LA 30 years ago, and it was Paul, and she transitioned to Gina Ray before she died from AIDS. So I've had these fabulous people in my life, and we're having dinner with Stephanie Mott in a couple weeks when she's here for a conference.
Love her. Yeah.
I do, and it's like, it matters to me what's happening to them, but it's getting to me to where I'm now at a point where I'm going to say queer as a political statement.
Mm-hmm.
I'm queer. Deal with it.
Well, and I think it's a way to rally together. We were rallying under the rainbow colors for so long as LGBT, and you and I had conversations in our previous podcast, which was much more centered on these issues, and we said, remember when we had a transgender friend on, and we were asking her, well, we divide. Well, you see gay issues go gay, and B issues go bi, and whatever. And we said, no, it'll always be under one umbrella. But I think what's happening now is, talking about this a year later from that conversation, we're rallying under the queer label. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. And something's got to happen. So to my point, I'm going to go to the pink party tonight and celebrate that there are victories, especially because this is happening in the South, And
I'm sorry.
You cut me off. Shreveport Times did a cover story on Lux Living, a section you're now writing for.
Yes, I am writing for that. And
was
others.
About the Pink Party. Yes, you are. But anyway, it's awesome. Now ring that bell.
For your final bell.
Ring that bell. How's that song go?
Ring that bell. Ring my bell. Okay. It's like Carly Fiorina. We're doing a Carly Fiorina. We got to be careful here.
Well, good. You're leading into my conversation. It's about the choice of a running mate. And this Hillary's choice of a running mate. In that, she will be the candidate for the Democratic Party. May go as late as June into California making the decision, which finally, they're so late in the year and they carry so many delegates, but they're saying they may be the deciding factor this year. So I want to talk about that because, of course, Cruz came out with Fiorina this week, or Fiorina, whatever her name is his running mate when
Loser,
he's making a presumption.
Go ahead.
I know, loser and loser on the same ticket. But I want to talk about this because it's really interesting how, when I couldn't have sex in my dreams this morning, I woke up and I started thinking about Hillary's running mate. And since 1940, every Democratic vice presidential nominee, except for two notable exceptions, were sitting U.S. senators. And those two exceptions, by the way, it's interesting, was Ferraro in 84, which I think was the lady card, the woman card that we call it now, and also Sergeant Shriver back in 72, and the circumstances then were different.
The crazy card.
They're crazy. And they say because senators, more than anybody else, the sitting senator has to make quick snap decisions and vote on things like war and welfare and all those things. And that's why the Democrats, unlike the Republicans, stick with that kind of philosophy. And it's important to note because when I was reading some of the short lists that are coming out for Hillary's possible running mate, when you really think about it, it's more than a running mate. It's the next vice president who will most likely, and this is where I want to head with this, possibly be the next president for another 8 years. This will be the same person, by the way, that will appoint a couple Supreme Court justices. We have Kennedy that's maybe going to retire at that time. We have Bader who's probably going to step down at that time. So even though right now things are up in the air with Garland, that may actually be Clinton's choice. And then look forward 8 years. You're going to probably be sitting there having to replace the two Supreme Court justices that I just mentioned that are lifetime appointments. Also, the appointment of the vice president that she chooses is very, very important because it could be the final 8 years of a 24-year stretch of Democratic leadership in this country. So It's very important when you really think about it. There's a lot that goes into this, but in this election, I think it's really important. And you look at that short list, you see a lot of senators or former governors, Tim Kaine, the Sherrod Brown from Ohio. It's like, where did that name come from? But you see him now sending out a lot of the notes from the Democratic Party and trying to get the vote for her and all that stuff. And they also said, one choice is 41-year-old Julian Castro because of the Latin vote. And they claimed that Obama really put him in his position as Secretary of Housing in the cabinet because they were grooming him to be the next, in the lineage of the Democratic Party. So that list is very, very important. Of course, I'm just going to end on one note. Will she go ahead and choose Amy Klobuchar from Minnesota or Elizabeth Warren from Massachusetts? They'll be a very, very interesting choice. Former governors like Massachusetts Deval Patrick, who's African-American, Cory Booker, of course, former mayor of Newark, who I idolize and is doing a lot of work with reform in prison systems and marijuana sentences. Really love this man. I think he's got a fresh new voice, too. He's a senator, a sitting senator. So all I'm saying is, this is more than just the fun of predicting and voting on and, seeing who she's going to choose. It's a really, really powerful choice, even perhaps more so than choosing her as our presidential candidate.
Absolutely. Now, before I get to my end quote, I do want to issue an apology because I promptly admit when I'm wrong. But somebody may have actually been paying attention to our conversation. And when you said Shriver, you said Hillary the woman card and Shriver, or no, Ferraro the woman card and Shriver, and I said the crazy card. And I'm always looking for the joke, but that was not an appropriate joke. He had depression or something like that, so I want to apologize for that. Okay?
I didn't even catch it.
I know, but somebody might, and it's like, oh, here's this Mark McNease, and he thinks he's so enlightened, and then he makes a joke about mental illness. It's not cool.
That's right. As Mark's partner on this podcast, I ask you to give us a second chance, please.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Okay, here is my end quote. I was going to use the Boehner quote about Cruz being Lucifer, but here's a different one because I think it's inspirational, and it addresses a lot of what we've talked about taking stands and doing what you need to do to secure a more just world. And it's from Eve Ensler, who is an author. She wrote the Vagina Monologues, playwright and activist. Quote, "Give voice to what you know to be true, and do not be afraid of being disliked or exiled. I think that's the hard work of standing up for what you see."
Wow.
That's a good one, huh?
I like that.
Yeah. Everybody, thanks for listening to another Twist, America's only clothing optional podcast. Rick and I will be back next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
Bye.
Bye.